Hey, I love that beat. My son in love did that beat. I just love it, love it. Yeah, I love it, I love it, I love it. Hey, everybody, welcome to Multiplying Talent with Aretha Simon. I'm here to help you multiply your talent and not your problems. I'm so excited about my guest today, but before I do that, I want to do a few announcements because this is like the number one request that I get all the time. I'm gonna talk about how to find grants and a little bit more, some grant writing do's and don'ts today, but you want to know about, we're going to have a grant writing class. So we have a grant writing class coming up February 26th. Before I do that, I do want to talk about 990s. I saw that go on the screen, 990s. Look, if you're a nonprofit, don't be confused. You have to file a 990. Don't let anybody say, oh, I didn't know. We didn't make any money. Do your 990 anyways. And we're not offering that. You can go to my website, arethasimons.com, and just sign up to get your 990 done. Easy peasy. If you want to show you how, we'll do that too. But you must do your 990. And now I want to talk about the grant writing class that's coming up. It's going to be a small group. So go to the website, grantwritingschool.org, and sign up. It's a grant writing workshop, February 26th. It's a Monday from 7 to 9, but we can go further than 9 because I want to stay on and make sure that your questions get answered. So speaking of questions, I hope that you have questions for us today. Whether you're watching on the replay or you're watching it live, you can still put your questions in the chat for me and my guest. Do me a favor, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and get a thumbs up and like, whether you're on YouTube. Also want you to subscribe to the YouTube because we're going to be transitioning to mostly YouTube. So we don't want you to miss anything. So I'm going to move out the way and introduce my guest today. It's one of my favorite grant writers. Her name is Melanie Campbell. She is the founder of Hire It Out. I love that name, Hire It Out, LLC. She's a virtual office assistant. When I say virtual office assistant, she does multiple things. She's a fundraising consultant and also a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. And did I mention that she is a grant writer? She is a grant guru, and you're going to find that out when you talk to her in just a few minutes. So welcome to the stage, Melanie. Melanie, I was trying to remember, where did we meet? Because we've been knowing each other probably 20 years now, at least 20 years. Do you remember?
No.
Well, hey, I'm just glad to know you. But I know we've been on grant writing conferences together. I refer a lot of people to you for grant writing, and just, I don't know, we're in the grant circle. And we were laughing a few minutes ago, like when we call each other, what did you say we do?
Well, most women talk about shoes or food or whatever. We talk about grants all the time.
That
We
is
go on
what
for
we do.
hours, unfortunately.
Yes, that is what we do because we love what we do, and it's something that we're passionate about. And I always tell people that passion is contagious, and that's probably why people call us all the time about this. So I want to get into it, Melanie, because I refer a lot of people to you. You know, my schedule's busy, and can you share with me, like, when I refer people to you, because I never get any feedback. They never call me back and say, hey, I'm working with Melanie, or hey, because I don't do the referral fee thing. I just say, your gift is your gift. Go ahead and use your gift. I've done my part by sharing your information. So tell me what it's like when people call you and they say, hey, I was referred to you by Aretha. Tell me about that conversation.
Well, there's two types. So there's the type that's just starting out and they want to know all about grants and how they can get the money because they need the money now. And then there's the other people who have had grant writers in the past and they're just kind of feeling you out. Now, the first person needs lots of help because they're doing it out of passion and heart, but they don't realize what all it actually entails.
That is so true. Most people, well, 100% of the people are doing it out of passion and heart, but some people are further along than others. And so the people who are not further along, how do you get them grant ready? What are some of the things that you share with them?
I actually share with them the list of most documents that funders are going to want. So making sure you have your board list and you have it in multiple different, I tell everybody to put your board list in Excel Have the basics where it just has the name and the position the person's in, and then also have the very detailed one that talks about years of service and what position they're in, and then also their demographics. So are they male or female, their race and ethnicity, what industry they're in. That's just one little example of something that most people take for granted. They're like, oh, I know my board.
Yeah, that's true. I was just looking at somebody's boards the other day, and I was like, you have to add more diversity when you want to apply for those larger grants. So some of the smaller grants, they don't ask you about your board, they don't care. But when you're applying for those six figures and more grants, they want to see that you have some diversity. So that's a really good one. And then what about the people who are kind of grant ready? Okay, my board is diverse, but I'm just missing some pieces. What are some of those missing pieces that they might have that you hear often where it's like, okay, I'll call you back. Let me get back with you.
Actually, recently was the budget. They're like, I said, do you have your operational budget? They're like, oh, yeah, we did that last year. But have you done it this year? And is it divided down into the actual programs? They're like, what? I said, for each program, it has to have a budget. Then that goes back up into the organizational budget. And they're like, oh.
Yes, yes. That is one of the things that we are doing on February 26th in the grant writing class. So you want to go to grantwritingschool.org, and we're going to help you break down those program budgets, because it's key to, you may have a full budget for the full year, but you need to pull out those program budget numbers so that you can apply for certain grants to say, hey, we're just only funding this. We're just only funding that. So those are some of the things you need to know. That was good, Melody. That was really good. Mm-hmm. So I know that you're a member of the Fundraising Association. What's it called? Grant Professional
of Fundraising Professionals.
Yes. So I know that there's a criteria. We've had conversations about some of the things that you as a professional grant writer must do, and some of the things that you learn. I don't know if you went to the conference last year, but what are some of the things that you learned by going to those meetings for professionals?
One thing is that grant writers have a code of ethics. So we cannot take a percentage of the funding. That is something that I get asked so many times. They're like, well, can we wait till we get the grant and then pay you a portion? I'm like, no.
Right.
And I actually carry around like 10 copies of the code of ethics with me. And I'm like, and here's the code of ethics. Because most people are like, what do you mean there's a code of ethics? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And I'm going to say I get that a lot too, because some people, they know they need the money to do X, Y, Z, but they want you to write the grant and they want you to get paid later because they don't have the money to pay you to get those dollars. And so that's one of the number one things. Can you write yourself into a grant? A long, long time ago, like 20, 30 years ago, you were able to do that a little bit on the especially the government grants, but can't do it anymore. I'm sorry, everybody who's watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funders actually look at all of that. So they're like, okay, where's the grant writer in here? And I'm, if I'm actually in it, and that's because I'm doing the reporting on the back end. That's the only time.
And what do you mean by that?
So most organizations will want you to you write the grant, then you get funded, then you have to actually report on it.
Okay.
And sometimes they want monthly reports, sometimes quarterly, biannually, or one report at the very end. Right. But you have to actually say how you spent the money.
And so you're getting paid as a 1099 when you're doing it on the back end. Okay. I just wanted everybody to be clear, because we say
I'm helping with the reporting.
Yes.
Not the actual grant. I'm taking the demographics or doing all the data crunching to be able to do the report.
Right. Very good. Very good. You're actually going to do a grant course in March. And if you go to grantwritingschool.org, you'll be able to find that later today. So tell us a little bit about that, some of the things you're going to be talking about.
Well, I'm doing thank you note your grant ready, because a lot of people don't know what they don't know. My favorite one that I've had recently was, well, we took pictures at events, so we can just kind of guess how many people were there. I'm like, no. And it's just all the things that you need to be doing, that because you're doing it from the heart, you kind of forget that it's actually a business.
Yes, that is big right there, because I've heard so many people say, we're a charity, we're not a business. If you're not a business, then why do you incorporate on the state level? Why do you get an EIN? So those are things that a business do. Yeah, go ahead, Melanie. Were you going to
The
say
federal government does not play.
Yes.
The IRS, like you just said before at the beginning, was about the 990. They will actually revoke your 501c3.
Exactly. In fact, 250,000 nonprofits lost their 501c3 for not doing their 990s. That's 250,000 nonprofits. You imagine the people that were helping their community, and boy, when it came time to apply for a grant and you didn't have the 501c3, because people are checking. It's public knowledge now. You can go to the IRS website, pull up the EIN, see if you've done your 990.
Security check, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
I
what we do that. Whenever I'm working, before I work with a nonprofit, I will actually research. Yes. Are they registered with the IRS? Charity check. Are they registered with the state? Because I'm in the state of Florida, so I always do Department of Agriculture charity check. I check everything. And then also, Guide Star, which is now Candidate, and then Charity Navigator.
Speaking of Candid, it's candid.org. Do you use that to find, it's okay, to find your grants? I myself am a Grant Station fan, so I use Grant Station because we said this is about how to write and, fundraising tips, but 95% of the funders do not put their information out for the public. You can't find their information. Here's where you get a grant on their website. Because you will be writing them all the time. People be writing them, hey, I need a grant for a car. I need a grant for a new lawnmower. So they hide their information in, I would say, databases. And so you have to pay to have access to these databases.
Yeah.
And Melanie just mentioned Candid. I don't know if that's one you use, Melanie. Is that one you use?
Yeah, I use that one, but I've also used Grant Station. I've also used Instrumental, and then there's Google.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you got, several different types of databases. Again, to really get access to them, you have to pay a fee. So if you're really serious about this, and I would say for those executive directors or people who start nonprofits and you go hire a grant writer and you say, hey, here's the money, you go and write the grant. You need to be educated too. So you need to know where they're going to find your grants, look at the criteria, because they're going to have to pull that information from you. So it's important that you know all this information as well. You want to add to that, Melanie?
Yeah, you want your grant writer to actually be immersed in your organization so that they can talk about the programs as fluidly. You also want to understand what the grant writer's doing. Like you said, where are they researching this grant? Does it actually fit with our organization? Years ago, I had a board member come to me and say, well, such and such just got a $5 million grant. Why didn't we go to them? And it's making sure your grant writer is making sure that everything fits. You can't fit a round circle into a square peg and think it's going to work.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. And that's what a lot of people do. What you just said, I hope people are listening, because I get that all the time. Nonprofits are seeing other nonprofits who are thriving and they're getting this grant money, but they haven't done what that other nonprofit has done to get themselves in a position. So if you're not grant ready for those large nonprofits, why don't you consider partnering with another nonprofit? So that's one of the ways to learn how to write grants. It's partnering with another nonprofit. You want to add to that, Melanie?
Yeah, that's actually a trend for the past couple of years, is that a lot of funders want to see that you're not trying to do everything in a silo. They love when you partner together. They love collaborations because that means that their money's getting spread around more. Exactly.
And they're getting a bigger return on their investment. So, and you're helping more people when you collaborate. It really, really does make a difference. So this is good. This is good, Melanie. See, we're just talking because this is what we do. We talk about grants all the time. But what I wanted to do is just remind you to go to grantwritingschool.org to sign up for the grant writing course. It's only $47, less than $50. So there is no excuse for you not to come or bring someone else along, because you cannot do this by yourself. So make sure you go to the website, because this is more than about grant writing. We're sharing things with you that you probably don't hear anywhere else. So go to the website, grantwritingschool.org, and sign up today. It's going to be small groups, so you will get your questions answered. And like I said, I will stay on there as long as we need to make sure that you have the tools that you need and get your questions answered. So I want to go back to some fundraising tips. I did a webinar the other day with TechSoup, and this was just for the Community Foundations of Texas. And there were amazing fundraising tips that we share with each other, because as I was telling people, when we do these events, put your tips in the chat, let other people know what you're doing, because somebody say, oh, I never thought of that. So the whole nonprofit world, we're not here just to be here by ourselves. We're here to help people, as I say, multiply our talents and not our problems. So can you share some fundraising tips with our audience today?
One tip that I recently gave somebody was to look at who you're actually working with. So who are you ordering office supplies from? Who is your attorney? Who is your pest control? I know that here locally, Massey actually gives out corporate sponsorships. But you have to have that connection. And it's all about making those connections and then connecting them back to your organization. So Coca-Cola, Pepsi, look at all corporations, because most of them do have a fundraising arm. But then also talk to your bank, because like Truist has family foundations. That's one of those areas that's difficult to find, like Aretha was just saying. And to be able to get into them, sometimes you have to know somebody.
So that's what we call building relationships. And building relationships is just communicating, just talking, sharing your passion about what you do to other people. And I promise you, they will listen. And if you're a good fit, there'll be a connection and hopefully some money. I want to share with you right now, Disney just opened up their grant cycle. So if you want to know about that, I had it on my phone, but you can email me at arethasimons.org and I can share the details. But you have to do it like ASAP, because what they're going to do is provide training for you before you even apply. They're going to tell you, hey, this is what we're expecting. This is how you qualify. So there's a couple of classes you have to go to, which is great. I love when they do that. They have classes that you go to and then you go apply. But that's building relationships. You want to say something, Melanie, about that?
Yeah. If you're local, you also want to have your donor portrait updated, because that is one of their requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes back. It used to be connected to GuideStar, which is now Candid. But that's one way to know when you're grant ready also, is to have all of those documents and answer all of those questions.
Exactly. And they actually have their own portal, though. Disney have a separate portal. And I think you were kind of bringing up a Community Foundations of Central Florida,
yes.
having that set up. But it's best to do that. Go ahead and do that. Maybe we should do a class on that, showing people how to do that. Because I actually worked with somebody who went to the site and they started it, but they didn't have all the pieces together and they never finished it, and they were missing out on so many grants. So
you would be amazed at how many people miss out on that. And
yes.
There are funders who actually go there to find people to fund, especially the smaller nonprofits or smaller foundations. They sometimes want to be able to give their money out, but then they want to do it anonymously.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So look, you've got a lot of tips already. Make sure if you watch this in the replay, leave your questions, leave your comments in the chat. And I want to again remind you of the grant writing classes. Go to grantwritingschool.org and sign up for the grant writing class that's coming up. Also, if you need a grant writer, book an appointment with Melanie. Go to her website and hireitout.com, right, Melanie?
Yeah.
Hire it out. Okay. And I think it's hire-it-out.com.
Yeah. Whenever I set up my website, there's a guy in Australia who does handiwork. He already had my domain. So.
But I like yours like that. So that's good to know. I mean, so just make sure you put the dash in there. And we're going to be seeing you in the future classes. So before we go, I want to just share one other two tips. So I'm going to let Melanie go first. Just some things that she's learned along the way. Just some things you don't know, maybe you know, and you just need to hear it again. And then I'll go after Melanie.
My biggest thing is tracking. please track any and everyone that you talk to, that you take care of, whether they're a client, a patient, a donor. Track. And always keep in contact with them too. Don't just one and done it. You never know who knows who knows who knows who. So let your donors and let your clients also know when you're doing an event or you're, looking for funding for a wish list.
Well, that's good. Melanie used the word track, and I think of that as data, keeping their email, their phone number, a way to contact them, because that tracking data is important. One tip that I want to leave that I think people just brush over and forget about all the time is keeping track of your volunteer hours. I say this all the time, and you might see a lot of videos of me talking about volunteer hours, but if you are not being paid at your own nonprofit, then you are a volunteer. So make sure you keep track of your hours. Right now, the 1 hour that you spend is worth $27.20. It's going to go up in April. So you have to just Google how much is the value of a volunteer hour, and you'll see when the price goes up this year. But keep track of those hours, keep track of your volunteer hours, keep track of any time that you and your board spend volunteering your time, because when you go to apply for a grant, say it's a matching grant, that's some of the time that you can use as part of your match. So instead of you using the dollars, you use the volunteer hours. So that's a whole nother workshop we can get into. But that's just one of the tips that I want to leave with you before we go. I wanted to, again, remind you to go to grantwritingschool.org, sign up for the class. Thank you, Melanie, for being here with me today.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. And just remember, make sure that you are multiplying your talents and not your problems. And we will see you on the next, reminding you of, I just love how he just put things up and just reminded me, look, don't forget to say this. I love you, Jermaine. He just put the announcements up. That's good. That's good. Those are things you need to know, the 990. So it's all there. It's all there. So I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And have a great day, everybody.